Can the iPhone 13 Pro Max dethrone the S21 Ultra as the best flagship smartphone? Well, today we will find out in this ultimate comparison where we're gonna test everything from the designs, displays, performance for the processor and the graphics, speaker comparison, cameras, and much more. Let's start out by comparing the exteriors, and we have a ton of differences. The Samsung has these curved glass corners. It's really smooth, whereas the iPhone, since the 12s, we have the boxy design. Of course, the camera bumps look much different as well. Apple is embracing their camera bumps. It's much bigger this year, and the Samsung, it's almost like they tried to blend it in other than just how deep that camera bump is. The S21 Ultra definitely looks larger, and as you can tell, it is taller, although with that is slightly narrower as well. It has a taller display, and even though it does look bigger, it is actually lighter than the iPhone 13 Pro Max. This thing is definitely bulky. We have the bigger cameras this year. Of course, it's using stainless steel for the frame instead of aluminum, and that makes it heavier. The Samsung has all of the buttons on its right-hand side, so the left side is completely free, whereas the iPhone, it sticks with its old traditional method and also has this large 5G antenna for millimeter wave. And then on the bottom, of course, we have USB Type-C compared to Lightning, and the Samsung has a SIM card slot there, which also supports a micro SD card, which is great to be able to expand your memory and save some money, whereas the iPhone, you're just stuck with whatever you buy. Flipping to the front of the phones, we have a ton of differences. The first being that the S21 Ultra has that curved glass edge display compared to the iPhone, which is completely flat right up until the edge of the frame. And because of that, we have this bezel that goes all around. It is even, but you definitely notice it compared to the Samsung, which has these super slim side bezels because of that curved display. Next, we have that notch on the iPhone. It did get smaller this year, about 20% smaller, but it's still noticeable compared to Samsung's hole punch, which is much more minimal. Now with that, Apple moved the earpiece speaker right up there close to the frame, which is the same thing that Samsung has, but theirs is hidden. You basically don't even notice it. We're gonna put these displays head to head in contrast, HDR, brightness, all of that. But first, I wanna go ahead and test out the speakers because the S21 Ultra has amazing speakers and Apple has improved them. So let's go ahead and see which ones sound better and which ones are louder. All right, guys, wow, that was close. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Loudness was identical. I even used my Apple Watch and both of them hit 78 decibels. So the iPhone got way louder than last year because back then it was smoked. And with that, as far as sound quality, it actually beats out the Samsung. So it was able to maintain more bass, and the highs are actually a little bit sharper as well. So even though it got louder, they kept the better sound quality from before. Either way, you're not going to complain with either of these, but the iPhone does take the win. And now let's compare the displays where the specs seem fairly close. We have up to 1200 nits on the iPhone and 1300 for the S21 Ultra. Both are 120 Hertz, but there are some differences. Let's start out with that brightness. I'm gonna go ahead and max out both of these in manual brightness mode. Vadim adjusted his camera so these aren't blown out, and as you can see, the iPhone gets much brighter when you're controlling it yourself and asking it to be brighter for certain situations. It goes up to 1000 nits, whereas the S21 Ultra goes up to about 500 or so if you're controlling it yourself. Of course, if you go outside and if you're using auto brightness mode, then they are very similar. Both of them will adjust their white balance to match your environment, but the iPhone does prefer a warmer color. And the other difference I see is color and brightness shift. The Samsung, when you're viewing it from an angle, it gets much dimmer and it gets a lot more blue than the panel that's in the iPhone. Now, both of these are 120 Hertz panels, meaning it is super smooth when you're using them, and they both go down all the way to 10 Hertz, saving you battery life. Now, there have been some people that are complaining online saying that the ProMotion tech with the iPhone, it's not really 120 Hz. And that's because with the iPhone, when you're scrolling, it will only give you the amount of refresh rate that you need. So if you're scrolling slowly like this, you will only get, say, maybe 60, 90, 100. Basically, it just matches how fast you're scrolling. Whereas the Samsung, whenever you scroll, it's at 120 Hz, or if you're flipping through apps or anything else. But you be the judge for yourself with our slow motion footage. Can you tell the difference in smoothness? To me personally, I can't tell. Both are ultra smooth, and of course, running at the low refresh rate when you're scrolling slowly does save you battery life. And now let's push these screens to the extreme with HDR video. I had to turn that top camera's exposure down all the way because of how bright this iPhone is. Both are playing HDR, both are maxed out in brightness. Look how much brighter the iPhone is. The crazy thing is last year, the Samsung beat out the iPhone, and now Apple is back with a vengeance. It's not that the Samsung is a really dim phone or anything like that. The iPhone has just gotten much brighter this year. Now, of course, if we zoom in here, we do notice that notch cutting into our image or our video much more so than that little camera cutout. Both screens have nice contrast, nice detail. This is 4K video being played back here. But if you want the best HDR, it is now iPhone, the 13 Pro Max, that takes the win. And now let's get to performance. We're gonna see the CPU performance, graphics performance, we're gonna see 5G speeds, but we're gonna start out with Geekbench 5. Of course, the new iPhone 13s, they have the A15 Bionic processor with the 5 graphics cores. With the S21 Ultra, we have the version with the Snapdragon 888. This thing has 12 gigs of RAM compared to 6 gigs. We have 8 cores compared to 6 cores, but that doesn't tell the whole story. The iPhone goes up to 3.23 gigahertz. That's crazy high compared to 1 core being able to hit 2.84 over here with the Snapdragon. But let's go ahead and run the CPU benchmark. All right, we have our results, and man, this is a big difference. Of course, even last year's A14 beat out the S21 Ultra, but here we are seeing a difference in 64% in single core score and over 40% in multi-core score. The iPhone 13 Pro Max is way more powerful, but of course, in day-to-day use with most apps, the S21 Ultra is more than fast enough. The difference really comes in when you've used this phone for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, it will still be fast and it will still run all the brand new apps. That is CPU. Let's go ahead and go back, and we are gonna do the graphics test. And bam, we have our results. Geez, that is not looking good. The 13 Pro Max's score is more than 3 times higher, 326% faster. That is incredible. Of course, we had a good difference beforehand. Now this new one is a huge jump, especially with the Pro model that has the 5-core graphics. And in this test, of course, we're using Vulkan, and it tests a lot of different things. We have face detection, depth of field, Gaussian blur, particle physics. It's not like a gaming test, but this is just a raw performance for those kind of tasks. Let's say you're doing photo editing, video editing, stuff like that. But what happens if we take a look at actual gaming performance? I have 3D Mark's Wildlife. Right now, we're gonna run the regular mode. That way, we can actually see something happen, and we're not just gonna get like 5 frames per second in 4K mode. So let's go ahead and get started. Even visually, we can see a difference in smoothness. Right now we're running at 27, 26 frames per second compared to 60-ish right there. We have 59. We're actually hitting the hard cap of this test. That is very weird compared to 33 here. We have 55, 33. Wow, so we have a big difference in performance. Let's see how this changes as the phones heat up here. That ended faster than I was expecting, but we have our results here. And yeah, this is still a big difference. We have about 70% or 72% higher score for the iPhone. So it's no longer 326%. In gaming, it's not that big of a difference, but we still have 32 frames per second average for the Samsung and basically 54.9 or 55% average for the iPhone. Now, what I'm curious about is, are we really limited by that cap? If we look right over here, a lot of times, more than half the time, it was hitting that 60 FPS. So does that affect that overall average frame rate? So I'm gonna go ahead and run Wildlife Extreme. This is gonna be the 4K one where we're definitely not gonna hit that 60 FPS limit. And let's see if we keep the same difference or if it's gonna be even bigger. Okay, all right. Well, I'm glad that I ran that test because as you guys can see, we have 17.1 here, which is low. This is a 4K test compared to 8.5 frames per second. So now the score is actually a little bit more than double. Instead of 70%, now it's more than double. So it's what, I don't know, 200% or so, a little over that. So yes, that was actually limiting the iPhone hitting that 60 frames per second cap. So overall for gaming, it looks like the iPhone 13 Pro Max has a little bit more than double the graphics performance than the S21 Ultra. If you guys want to see a gaming test head to head, maybe even with 120 Hz games, who knows? You guys let us know, comment down below. And now let's test something that very few channels do, the speed at which your phone can actually connect. When you spend this much money, you want it to be fast. So we have speed tests open here on both connected to the same server. We're gonna run one at a time to make sure there's no bottlenecks. And what's interesting is that the S21 Ultra, it shows 4 out of 5 bars, where iPhone only shows 2 out of 4, but let's see if that matters. We're gonna start out with the iPhone. Bam, we are at 80, 84, 85, right there. Keep in mind, we're actually inside of a concrete office building right now. It stopped at 87, so that's pretty good. And as far as the upload, just a bit above 20. And now for the S21 Ultra, bam, look at that. 90, 93, 95, slightly high. Oh no, it's slowing down. I shouldn't have said that. Look at that, we got 98 there right at the end. It kicked up a little bit. And for upload, also a little bit faster, looking at 32, 31. But it doesn't have that side antenna for 5G, but we are not using millimeter wave here. This is low band, so it looks like the Samsung does take the win by just a bit with both the upload and the download. I remember we got like 15 here. It sucked. Now these speeds are much better. Stepping outside on the roof, we first tested the Samsung and it got a much faster 256 download and 52 for the upload. And then we pulled out the iPhone and it got 365 megabit per second download and a higher 63 for the upload. So these are fantastic results, much faster than indoors. Literally just stepped out of the concrete here. But what's interesting is that the Samsung outside showed 5 out of 5 bars. The iPhone started 2 out of 4, then it jumped up to 3. So that just proves that the bars really don't matter. And there was a teardown that actually revealed that the 13 Pro Max has the same Snapdragon X60 modem as the S21 Ultra. So the main modem is the same. The difference are the antennas, and the iPhone is better, at least outdoors. And now let's talk about the cameras. Of course, if you're spending this much money, you want great cameras. And the cool thing is we just did an unbiased camera comparison against both of these, where you can actually watch, choose your favorite photos, and then find out which phone you prefer. Both these are powerhouses. We have crazy lenses, but the Samsung has a high resolution main camera, 108 megapixel compared to 12. The front facing camera is 40 megapixel compared to 12. It also has the same 3 times zoom, and then it has a 10x telescopic lens. So hardware wise, this one definitely takes the win, but what happens when you add in the software element? So make sure you guys go out and check that video after this one. Is a whole lot of fun and shows off some massive differences. I don't know if I should give him a hint, Vadim. What do you think? No, we won't give you guys a hint. Just go ahead and watch that video to see which one has the better cameras. And now let's talk about battery life. The S21 Ultra has a massive 5,000 milliamp hour battery, whereas the 13 Pro Max, it went from under 4,000 now to a 4,350 milliamp hour battery, so definitely smaller. But with that, the battery life is actually much better on the iPhone. In tests online, we're seeing about an hour and a half more screen on time, which is huge. The S21 Ultra used to be the king there, but now the iPhone is almost 10 hours of screen on time. And that is thanks to the A15 Bionics super power efficient cores, and along with that, the 120 Hz screen will adapt when you're swiping and using it instead of being locked at 120 Hz, and that also saves power. So the iPhone is definitely the winner. By the way, neither of these come with chargers. If you guys want one, you guys can pick up one of these Anchors that is only 11 or 12 bucks with folding prongs, 20 water. This thing does a great job. As far as prices, the iPhone comes in at $1,100 just like it did before, compared to $1,200 for the S21 Ultra, both with 128 gigabytes of storage. So the iPhone surprisingly is cheaper. And now for the final verdict, did the iPhone 13 Pro Max dethrone the S21 Ultra as the best smartphone in the world, the true flagship king? And I would have to say yes. Last year, the Samsung was much better, or I guess it was this year when it came out, had better hardware all around. It was no doubt better battery life, the screen. But now the screen in the iPhone is also 120 Hz, but more energy efficient. It has better battery life, has faster 5G speeds, much better CPU performance, and much better graphics performance. And the design looks great. And also in the camera division, it wins a lot. It is way better. You guys have to see that video. Overall, I would have to give the win now to the iPhone 13 Pro Max as the flagship king. But you guys let us know your thoughts down in the comments section below. Go ahead and click that subscribe button above if you guys want to subscribe and help us reach 1 million subscribers. We would definitely appreciate it. Check out one of those great videos right over there. This has been Max, and I'll see you in the next video.